Welcome to the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast, where sexual taboos are broken. I'm Tilly Storm, holistic sex coach and jade egg and tantric sex teacher. I work with luxury lovers, teaching them the art of better sacred sex by helping them remove all their blocks to pleasure, turn on confidence and connection, so they can step into their fullest potential and power as humans and alchemists in the 3D. If you'd like to learn how to release shame and guilt destroying your sex life so you can feel fully sexually liberated and free, you can access my How to Release Shame and Guilt training at www.tillystorm.com/shame. This episode is brought to you by the Sensually Embodied Woman Collective. If you're ready to remove all your blocks to pleasure, turn on and feeling confident and sexy in your body through my paid programs and offerings, then head to www.tillystorm.com today. Welcome back to the show, my loves. It's Tilly, and today we're talking about how to turn a waterfall of emotions into an orgasmic, emotional roller coaster ride. Have you cried during sex? Do you find that your emotions fluctuate a lot during the month, like I find mine do? Your energy levels fluctuating, and you feel like a basket case about half of the month? Well, welcome to the club of being a woman. Many women struggle with feeling that their emotions are all over the place and not knowing what to do with them, feeling out of control, like they're a victim to their body. These are all things I've experienced myself, and even working on my own health and wellness, eating vegan, making sure that I'm eating foods that support my hormone balance. Even after taking all of these steps, it still is a challenge. And it is for many women that I hear from as well. Today, I wanted to share with you, what do you do with emotions that feel like you have no control over them? The first thing that we get to talk about is what emotions actually are. Emotions are energy in motion. Emotions are nothing but energy. You are not your emotions. You are not the things that you think. You are not the thoughts in your head. You aren't the things that you feel in your body. And having this understanding, having this intellectual understanding that you aren't the things that you are feeling, can help you to feel empowered to shift and to change things. And this is something that I have embodied, a truth I have embodied through meditation practices and techniques. Learning meditation has been the most valuable tool in learning how to manage my emotions that feel really big and like I don't have control over them. So understanding that what emotions are, it's simply energy that's moving through your body, helps you to break it down to its component pieces. All right, well, if it's energy that moves, what do we do with the energy, and how can we move it in a conscious way to where we don't feel victim to the energy that we are feeling in our body? This brings me back and reminds me of birth. If you are a mom, if you've experienced childbirth before, if you have experienced labor pains before, and even if you're not and you've experienced cramping when you're bleeding, then you'll have a similar understanding of what these contractions are like. They're just energy that you feel in your body, and you do not have control over what happens to them. And in fact, the only thing you can do is to surrender to the sensations you are feeling, to accept and surrender that this is what's happening and this is what I am feeling right now. But oftentimes, we try and push away these sensations and emotions. We do not allow them. And what happens is we repress them. If you take the common emotions that block us in our sexuality, fear, shame, guilt, and disgust, these are the four main emotions that block us in our sexuality. If you take these emotions, boil them down to how does fear, guilt, shame, or disgust present in my body? How do I know that I am feeling this emotion? This allows you to connect with what we call the felt sense sensation of the emotion. This is something that we teach in the Sensually Embodied Woman program, is body meditation. All of our coaching containers are leading you back into what are you feeling in your body. If you're experiencing a strong emotion, always coming back to, okay, how do I know I'm feeling that? going into your body and saying, okay, where do I feel this fear, shame, guilt, disgust, or whatever other emotion you might be experiencing as well? How do I feel that in my body? You might feel a knotting in your stomach. You might feel your throat heating up and feeling like fire is going to explode in your throat. You might feel your head swirling around like, oh, I'm just so up in my head and I feel like everything's floating, like I'm floating or something. Whatever emotions you're experiencing, you do have control over them. So how do you turn this waterfall of emotions that you experience into orgasmic energy and go on an orgasmic emotional roller coaster ride? Yes, I am talking about anger-gasms. I'm talking about guilt-gasms, cry-gasms, sadness-gasms, all the things. They don't have to be associated with a negative emotion either. Sometimes you can be so overfilled with joy and happiness and excitement that you don't know what to do with the energy. How can you take that energy and move it in a conscious way through your body to create a freaking joy-gasm or a laughter-gasm or a bliss-gasm? Whatever it is you're experiencing, you can have any sort of emotional orgasm. I just did a podcast on the 8 different types of female orgasm. I would say that the emotional orgasm is the 9th type. I don't talk about them because they're not something you can measure. This is not something that science will ever be like, yeah, let's study emotion gasms. Good chance that ever happening. But emotion gasms are real. They are absolutely real. And in the tantric tradition, we have learned tools and practices they're called tantric emotional liberation practices, tools and practices to take the emotions you're feeling and to turn them into an orgasmic experience. And it starts with acceptance and surrender, just like I told you. Okay? Accepting where you're at instead of putting a freaking lid on it like you all do to repress it because you don't want to feel the bad things. Guess what? That makes you feel more of the bad things. Because repressing shame and guilt, fear, disgust, any other so-called negative emotion is like trying to put a lid on a boiling pot. Eventually, it's going to blow. And that never leads to anything that you really want down the road either. So the way that you deal with emotions throughout the month, especially when you're in that week or two of feeling down in the dumps, if you're a woman who cycles, it can often feel like I have, no matter how hard I try to be positive, to stay positive, or to have good thoughts and to do all of my practices, sometimes no matter how hard I try or how many times I do those things, you still have the negative emotions inside. And the way that we're going to deal with them is to ask ourselves, what am I feeling in my body right now? How do I know this emotion exists in my body? How do I know I'm experiencing it in my body right now? And taking that emotion, connecting with the sensation of the emotion, and asking the emotion, wow, there you are. I see you. I feel you. I feel you hard right now. You're really present in my experience. What is it that you're here to share with me? What do you want or need from me right now? And then just taking a moment to pause and let that emotion answer you. Because the emotions that we're feeling are parts of our consciousness. They are a part of us. We tend to over-identify with the emotions sometimes. Like we say, I am sad, or I am guilty, or I am ashamed, or I am afraid. See how you are identifying with the emotion? This is because we're taught that we are the emotion, but you're actually not. It is a part of your consciousness. You put it there for a reason. You have certain emotions for certain reasons. Usually there are reasons to protect you, but not always. So tuning in with the emotion and getting curious about, why is it here in the first place? What does it need from me right now? What is this emotion trying to say to me? And just coming to a place of acceptance, no matter what that answer is. So sometimes the emotion might tell you, if it's guilt, for example, you're experiencing a lot of guilt around your body or sexuality, and you tune into the emotion and the guilt says, yeah, I'm here because I keep you safe. And what I need from you right now is for you to acknowledge me that I'm here. That back when we got caught by mom when we were 8 masturbating, that we had to shut this down. And we had to create guilt, the sense of guilt, in order to be safe and to get loved in our family, right? This experience is something that the emotion you're experiencing, the guilt, is trying to get your attention to say, hey, I'm ready to be alchemized into orgasmic energy, okay? You don't have to stay in the sensation of guilt. It doesn't have to stay yuck. Once you can accept the emotion and the sensation you're feeling, then you can take that energy, the sensation you're feeling, and you can use the breath to move this sensation through the body to create an emotion gasm. I'm going to explain that to you in grave detail. So the way that you are going to move the breath is through what we call the microcosmic orbit practice. The microcosmic orbit is an ancient Taoist practice that teaches you how to move sexual energy through the body to create a full body orgasmic experience. So you are not just experiencing pleasure or sensation or any sensation that you want to experience in your genitals. If you ever want to experience full body energy or valley orgasms, learning the basics of the microcosmic orbit is absolutely essential to you experiencing those things. If you ever want to experience emotion gasms, it's the same thing. So you're connecting with the sensation of the emotion you feel in your body. And I always suggest standing up to do this. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that sensation you feel. Say I feel this guilt around my sexuality in my gut. You're going to take the sensation in your gut and you're going to inhale it down into your pelvis. You're going to exhale it up the back of your body to the top of your head. And then you're going to inhale at the top of the head, expand that emotion and sensation of the emotion in the head, and you're going to exhale that emotion and sensation back down into your belly, where you feel it originally, where you originally feel the sensation of it, right? And then you're going to do the whole practice again and again and again until the breath starts to take over and it becomes freaking orgasmic. Oh my God, this is like the most amazing thing in the world, the most amazing tool to have if you really struggle with negative emotion. The best way to get out of it is to start breathing through it. It always comes back to the breath, right? So let's review this again. So when you feel the emotion, wherever you feel it in your body, so we're going to continue with the example of feeling it in your gut, you're going to inhale the emotion down into the pelvis, technically the root chakra, which is either located at your perineum or your cervix if you're a woman, or your perineum if you are a man. And you're going to exhale the sensation of that emotion up the top, the back of your body to the top of your head. And then you're going to inhale it, let it expand in the head, and you're going to exhale it down the front of your body. And then you're going to inhale, pushing it down all the way into the pelvis, exhale it up the back of the body to the top of the head, inhale at the top of the head, exhale it down the front of the body. And then once it starts to flow, you're going to move into a condensed movement with the breath going up the back of the body and then exhaling down the front. So inhaling up the back, exhaling down the front, inhaling up the back, exhaling down the front. And as you do this, you are using the breath in a super conscious, powerful way, letting that energy alchemize. That is exactly what you're doing with it. Since emotions are just energy in motion, you can use it consciously to alchemize the emotion into orgasmic energy. Fucking wow. Oh my God, if anyone had ever taught you that long, long ago, we would have such a different relationship with emotions. But here we are, wherever you're at, you have arrived here on this podcast today to learn these specific tools and practices to better yourself, and enhance your experience of life so you don't feel like a victim to your freaking hormones every month. Because I know, ladies, trust me, I know. All right, so once you've got this down, so you're inhaling up the back, exhaling down the front, inhaling up the back, exhaling down the front. You're letting this emotion cycle through the body. You might find your body wanting to move, wanting to kick, wanting to scream, wanting to do whatever it wants to do, allowing and trusting that the body knows what it needs to alchemize this into pleasure, because pleasure is the natural state of being. The negative emotion and sensation you're feeling is not your natural state of being. And when you're consciously using the breath to alchemize this sensation through your body, you are turning it into pleasure, which means you are coming back into your natural state of being, which is pleasure-filled. Because why? This is because pleasure is life-giving. Pleasure soothes, calms your nervous system. Pleasure puts you in a thriving state. It takes you out of survival and puts you into thriving. And this is why I always say it is a non-negotiable. Pleasure is a non-negotiable. It's something that needs to be prioritized, even more so for the women that have a hard time experiencing any pleasure in the bedroom or in their life in general. Because the one thing that they need to get them out of survival is more of pleasure. And if you can't even prioritize the practices to bring you more pleasure, then you're never going to experience it and you're going to be stuck in survival mode for the rest of your life. Well, have fun with that, but that ain't how I'm going to roll, and that isn't how any of my clients are going to roll. So we have all said, screw that shit. We're here for more. We're here to be in our natural state of being and to experience all the pleasure available to our bodies, to experience all these 8 different types of orgasms, and 9th if you count emotions as one, right? So here we are learning tantric emotional liberation. I've just taught you the basics of it. It is a very advanced skill, and it's not something that I even teach in my programs because most of you are going to be so blocked with feeling the emotion at all that you can't even connect with the sensation of it. And this is why we have to work with the nervous system and connecting with the pleasure for weeks, sometimes months, before you can ever learn to consciously move it, because you have been so habituated into repressing that emotion that you don't even feel it. You don't even know that it's there anymore because you've repressed it so much. It's come out in other ways and distortions. It's come out in resentment to your partner. It's come out as the wounded feminine or the wounded masculine inside of you. It comes out in all sorts of screwy ways, like we talked about last week in shadow work. And until we learn to accept the emotion, to let it be there without judging it for what it is, it doesn't ever get alchemized, and we never return to our natural state of pleasure and thriving. And your body is just like nature, okay? Your body is nature. If you think of weeds that you pull in your garden, what do they automatically do once you pull them? They start growing again. If you cut your grass, what happens immediately after you cut your grass? It starts growing again. Okay, your body is always trying to come back to its natural state of pleasure and thriving, but you are keeping it from doing that by repressing your emotions because you're afraid to feel them and you don't want to feel them. So if you are ready to stop doing that and you're ready to actually thrive, then you've got to allow space and time to feel your emotions. I know it's not something you want to feel. I get it. I go there every month. I always have like at least 4 or 5 days of the month where it's so hard, right? It's so hard to stay positive and to have a good attitude and to do things, to actually take action on things, right? But it's necessary to feel those things. Necessary. So stop repressing it. Stop shoving it in the corner. Stop shoving the fear, the guilt, the shame, the disgust, the anger, the resentment. Stop shoving it in a corner and telling it doesn't have a place here. It wants a place here, and until you give it a place here, it ain't going away, babe. It ain't going away. All right, now I'm starting to sound like ladies from where I'm from back in New Orleans, which means I'm on a soapbox. So thank you all so much for joining me. I love you all so much. Thank you for listening. Remember to hit subscribe to make sure that you get the notifications when a new episode drops. And please go to www.tillystorm.com, download any of our free resources, and supporting us and our work through censorship-free or highly less censored platforms such as Pinterest, Gab, MeWe, Telegram, and sometimes Instagram. We are still on Instagram at tilly.storm. And all of the other ones, we have a Telegram channel. You can find me at Tilly's Tantric Truth Tribe. And we also are on Gab, MeWe, and Pinterest. Pinterest, I love it. I'm kind of obsessed with it right now. So if you are ever on Pinterest, please follow us at Tilly Storm. You can find me easily just by typing in the name. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.